Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your co-host, Big Waz, aka Wosney Lambre, and I'm joined as always by my brother, my compadre on the west side of Los Angeles. ¿Cómo estás?
Estoy muy bien. Always great to see you, big brother Waz.
Same, man. You know, I just came back from Cartagena, so my Spanish is there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
How was that?
Barely. It was a
We'll do
great
it. We'll
time,
do it
man.
for the Patreon. We'll do a subscribers only
Oh, subscribers only where we
pod.
describe what
Yeah,
really
the
happened at the bachelor party. Yeah, that's for the Patreons for sure. No, but seriously, just Cartagena is it's really just a magical place.
yeah.
And I was telling somebody when I came back, actually my girlfriend, I was telling her, the first time I went, I guess I was just way drunker and doing way more partying, but like I didn't realize how African the place is.
Yeah,
You know,
dude.
like there's just a lot of black people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of Colombians are African descended, even if they are, also descended from indigenous folks or Spaniards like yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of Colombians are black, which I don't know. You know, as much as I poo-poo and lampoon racial essentialism, um,
Yeah.
on this show, I did find myself the heartstrings were tugged seeing
Mm.
my people out in Colombia,
Dude,
Nando.
I produced a music video in Colombia in 2010, and so a while ago. But as part of it, we went to this town called San Palenque de Basilio.
Mhm.
And the town is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's in a very remote area, very difficult to get to. And the town is all black, and it was founded by escaped slaves.
Wow.
And the people there are descendants of those people. So some slaves escaped from plantations somewhere in Colombia, and they basically ran away and founded this little town away from the masters, and they never got caught. They never got found because it was just so hard to get to. And so they lived there and created their own kind of culture, their own musical culture. They have this like strange little language that's kind of a mix between Spanish and some of the the languages that they brought over from Africa. Um, it's a pretty cool little story. I mean, the descendants of those people that live there now are all descendants of escaped African slaves. So yeah, there's a ton of black people in Colombia.
That's incredible. And yeah, just to tie a bow on that, it just reminded me that like the people who we interface with, especially here in America, who happen to be from certain countries, right? Like I think about Colombians who I went to high school with. Isn't Shakira Colombian? Am I making that
Yeah,
up?
she is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah, she is.
like it's all like sort of fair skin, light skinned people. So in my mind's eye, these are Colombians. This would all
Was
Colombians.
always look at the soccer teams. You know,
Right,
to
right.
know, to understand the real racial makeup of a country, look
Yes.
at the soccer team. You know, France is full of Africans and
Yeah,
black people.
yeah,
You know,
period.
there's some white guys too, but
Yeah. And
Colombia,
brown people and Middle Eastern homies, Arabs and all of
totally.
that. Yep.
Yeah, a Colombian soccer team. You know, there's some white guys on it, and there's a ton of black guys on it. You
Yeah.
know, um, same with like Ecuador and Peru has black people. Like yeah, there's all over the place.
It's incredible. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind when I think about Pan-Africanism and the African diaspora, man. We got some brothers and sisters in South America, and we need to not forget about that. So on today's show, man, we wanted to talk about this Norfolk Southern train disaster, toxic chemical spill, explosion, pollution. It's as the days have gone on, this shit has gotten a lot worse. And the more we learn about this company, the more fucked up we realize that it is. And it's interesting because we're about to play this clip from Bernie Sanders sort of grilling the CEO of the company on Capitol Hill about like, okay, like now the microscope has been put on y'all asses. You're finally taking under consideration that people who work for you should get 7 sick days a year. Like, really? A company that can afford to give their shareholders 10 billion with a B dollars in stock buybacks can't give their people 7 paid sick leave. And so the more we look at this, the worse it gets. But Jared, please play that Bernie clip for us, brother. Go ahead,
The
Jared.
country, I think, was shocked to learn a number of months ago that your employees, rail workers, who work in a dangerous job in all kinds of weather, had zero paid sick days. Now, I know that is beginning to change, but I would ask you, given the fact that Norfolk Southern provided $10 billion in stock buybacks recently, can you tell the American people and your employees right now that in order to improve morale in your workforce, that you will guarantee at least 7 paid sick days to the 15,000 workers you employ? I do know you've made some progress. You increased paid sick days for some of your workers. Will you do what most Americans think is pretty obvious, that when you get sick, you get guaranteed paid sick days? Will you make that commitment right now to your entire workforce?
Senator, with our latest agreement with our employees, which included a historic 24% wage increase and access to premium health care benefits, we immediately pivoted to talking to each of our local...
I've been deeply involved. I introduced the amendment on the floor. I know the issue. But what I'm asking you right now, you provided paid sick days to some of your employees. I got it. Thank you. Will you now do it? What we get here in Congress, our employees get sick, they get paid sick days. Will you make that commitment right now to guarantee paid sick days to all of your workers? That's not a radical demand. It really is not. Will you make that commitment, sir?
Senator, I share your focus on our employees. I will commit to continuing to discuss with them important quality of life issues with our local craft colleagues.
In all due respect, you sound like a politician here, Mr. Shaw. It's not a deal. Paid sick days is not a radical concept in the year 2023. I am not hearing you make that commitment to guarantee that to all of your workers. Clearly, we should have that for every worker in America. I'm not hearing that commitment. Will you make that commitment, sir?
Senator, I'm committed to continuing to speak to our employees about quality of life issues that are important to them.
All right. Well, I'm chairman of the Health Education Labor Committee. We look forward to having that discussion.
You gotta love it, Bernard Sanders.
The best.
There will never be another. It's amazing. You would hope that in an ideal world, our freaking president would be using his bully pulpit, to use the example, and not just those workers, but we're going to get into what's going on to the people in the town. To be like, yo, we need to do right by. And what strikes me, Nando, is that this company, like a company I've never heard of, making billions of dollars. They have all of these employees. They're just chugging along, right? Like nobody's paying attention. Their employees have no voice. Like they can't really do anything to make their lot in life better.
Well, they can't do that because when they tried to strike, the Democrats, led by Joe Biden, intervened to make the strike illegal.
Yes.
That's straight up what happened there, The Democrats made the strike illegal. And then, the fact that this like airborne toxic event thing happened just a few months later, and it was directly tied to, deregulation of the rail industry, the fact that they put like two workers on these trains that are like miles and miles long, because they need to cut labor costs as much as possible. The fact that this happens, obviously months after the Democrats crush their union, Biden still hasn't gone to East Palestine, Ohio. Like he just hasn't gone. Like they sent like Trump's been there. Pete Buttigieg went after Trump, and he looked like a total dweeb in the hard hat and glasses. And Biden hasn't been there and been like, and it's just like it's so weird. Like the Democrats don't understand something really fundamental. Just from a pure kind of political lens, it's like they think that like if a disaster happens on their watch, they'll be blamed for it. Whereas like that's not really how it works. Like if a disaster happens on your watch, like say 9/11, You fucking go to you go to ground zero, you stand
Rally the
there, like you're the
troops.
president, you rally the troops, you
rally
fucking,
support.
you
Hello.
rally support, like shit happens. People understand that shit happens. You have to like go, what they want is for you to show backbone leadership, some sort of, that you give a shit about it. You know what I mean? Like that. And the fact that when this happened, there was a kind of weird thing in that the media wasn't really covering it that much. It was just kind of a footnote. And I'm like, this is
This
like Exxon Valdez,
Yeah.
like this just fucking chemicals just pouring into the atmosphere of this community, these people, and it really wasn't until there was, some kind of activism, especially by the part of some of the left media, like guys like David Sirota, who was just like all over this from day one, that they finally made this an issue. But this was like a big deal. Like these toxic spills with these kind of weird ass fucking chemicals that no one's ever heard of, the effects that they may have on the medium and long term effects that they may have on people are completely impossible to really know right now.
Of course.
They don't know what it means to be breathing in these things for months, and like what effects that may have on your cancer rates and shit like that going down the road. Like, remember that movie Aaron Brockovich? Like, they wouldn't be surprised if something
exactly
like
what the movie was about. Literally,
this is exactly it.
So it's man, it's crazy because the reason why that's a stupid political calculation, and and we talk about this stuff all the time on the show where we're like, yo, we get it. Like, people are sort of mired in the muck of this culture shit and partisanism, and all of that stuff. Like, we get it, but like, when the rubber meets the road, the shit hits the fan, or any other euphemism you want to use, bro, like, that shit gets thrown out the window. They want to know that the people in charge, whether they be Democrat or Republican, whether this is a conservative county or not, I don't even know. It doesn't matter. Like, you're supposed to show up. Like, we say this all the time. Stuff like this is exactly what a federal government exists to do. Like, how are these people supposed to help themselves in this situation? This isn't a bootstrap situation. Like, this is the reason why we have a society. This is it. Yeah. This is it. Yeah. These problems are bigger than what an individual can solve on their own. And that's why we come together collectively, so that when people are in this type of rut, they can have some type of fucking support. Yeah. And so, when you hear Brandon, I can't even bring himself to go see these people. It's absurd, and then of course you hear about this shit where, again, we've deregulated every single major industry to shit. So these guys are all left to their own devices. They police themselves, they regulate themselves. And so when this thing happens, they're cleaning it up on their own, which whatever, instead of paying somebody to clean it, they're doing it at their pace or whatever with their contractors. And then when it comes to testing shit like the water supply, testing the toxin levels in the air and all of that, they hire some third-party vendor who they pay to hand out results to these citizens, people who are potential litigants. So these folks are supposed to trust the results that are handed to them by the company that is hired by Norfolk Southern to test the toxicity levels of their water supply and their air. Make it make sense, Nando.
This is absurd. This is America under neoliberalism. It's just what it is. Like, the state capacity is like so hollowed out. Like, this shit like wouldn't go down like this in 1960. No. Like when after the New Deal, the New Deal was basically what it was, beyond the sort of jobs programs and things like that. What it really was the building up of state capacity, of the American state becoming a kind of modern, pseudo social democratic entity that actually did look out for people's lives on some level, and actually did kind of intervene in these kind of situations in a way that was more effective, and had professionals and civil servants, people who worked as experts and were involved in all things from like environmental regulation to labor issues to business regulation to industrial planning, like a million things. Like, And since the neoliberal era, the idea is like the government should just step away from all spheres of life
Because the
and
market
hollow it
is
out.
just gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
Duh,
it's just
and you know what the fucking market says, Nando? That this is just a blip in the profits. Causing these kinds of disasters and ruining people's lives, whatever it is that is going to cost to clean this up and sort of paper over it and make it look nice again or whatever, is just a fucking blip. That's what the market dictates, that they treat these people like shit, that they steamroll them. That's what the market tells them to do, because the bottom line is not affected by handling it this way. And so that's why this whole idea, just like, no, these market actors, why would they want to pollute a town? Why wouldn't they want to keep their workers safe with rails that actually aren't 1,000 years old, so they don't have derailments? Why would anybody in the market want to do that, Nando?
yeah, no.
They wouldn't skip over this at the expense of profit. They would never do that.
Listen, the fact that the rail companies are private, period, is unconscionable. Like it's just like a very obvious thing that should be nationalized. I mean, I think, like, broadly speaking, ideologically, anything that is necessary for the free flow of the economy, should be nationalized. Anything like that, like there's no way you can't compete if you're a railroad, right? Like, there's a fucking track. And you and I can't start a competing railroad and build another track. It doesn't make any sense.
It's not going to happen.
So for it to be private is really just a transfer of wealth from a social good into the hands of private capitalists, And so there's no reason why it shouldn't be nationalized. It would be much more efficient. It would be much more in the public interest. It would be, if when it's privatized, it's just the only interest, it's profit. And so, obviously, the right wing kind of caricature of left's like, oh, you want like the government to make your sneakers, and it's like, no, I mean, they should make some sneakers for the poor or whatever, but there should be like, it's fine for you and I to start a sneaker company or whatever, but like, you just can't have in private hands things that should be social goods, right? Airlines,
100%,
electrical utilities, water,
all of that, like 100%, but. But at the very least, if you're going to let these people make money hand over fist for no fucking reason, at the very least, regulate these fools, man. Like, at the very least, if we're not going to actually operate it, as a government, as a people, if we're not just going to nationalize this shit and take it over, there should be some kind of watchdog mechanism when the lives, the health, the fates of so many people are riding on this shit. Like, these people should be amongst the most heavily regulated that exist. We don't get to own it, but we watchdog the hell out of you motherfuckers. Because it's important, and it's not as if, like you said, you have some competition baked in that's gonna make sure that you're keeping this stuff up to snuff and up to standard. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this Joker is up on Congress, and as he's getting grilled in Congress, another one of his company's trains gets derailed in Alabama.
It's wild.
You cannot make this shit up.
Listen, I hadn't thought about the fucking rail industry for 1 second until there was the labor issue that we covered on a few months ago. And when I heard that 2 fucking workers are hired to be on a train that could be as long as 4 miles long, with like hundreds of carts with toxic chemicals, and they just got 2 fucking guys up there, like, man, they are the whole thing about capitalism and for-profit private enterprise is that they got to shave down as much as they can to where it's razor thin in terms of efficiencies, right?
That's what makes them a good capitalist.
Exactly. So what they'll say is like,
possible.
And if there's derailments, that's baked into, they put that into the calculation, like they can handle a few derailments as long as they're keeping the, they don't have to pay these like high labor costs or they have to like, do all kinds of safety regulations or have shorter trains or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, this is like, this story to me was the whole rail saga that we've been seeing this year is a perfect distillation of everything that is wrong with American politics in the last 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Basically, ever since the neoliberal turn in the 1970s. This is what happens in this kind of society, a society that is poorly regulated with a weak government, with not strong labor unions, with no left party to speak of. Um, this is the natural kind of outgrowth of that. It's just it's inevitable.
Yeah, and in the meanwhile, people are getting grounded into dust. You should check. I would encourage you guys to go check out the More Perfect Union. They did a mini doc,
Yeah,
going down there and talking to people on the ground. And again, these are just normal everyday people. These are not folks with means. Like you can't take on a multi-billion-dollar corporation after they fuck up your water supply, after you feel like you're breathing in toxins in your own crib, in your own house.
yeah,
Like they have no recourse, these folks. So in the meantime, while all the fat cats on their board, because of course it's a publicly traded company, Nando, we got to
yeah,
operate via the shareholder model, and everything is about maximizing profit at literally every single human cost possible. Fuck, like the thing is, like, these folks don't care about the actual workers whose toil allows for them to make all of this profit. They don't care about those people who are
yeah,
actually whose backs they're actually making the money on. You think they give a fuck about these random people in Ohio? Like it's like they don't have loyalty to the people that's making them the money. You think they're gonna have
yeah.
any sense of like civic duty to these
No,
folks in Ohio? And I'm just like, man, this is so crazy. Because again, I'm just like, what do these people do? What do they do?
yeah. No, I mean that's one of the things the left always talks about, like socialists always talk about, is that one of the problems with capitalism and privatizing things is that privatizing something like rail, like what you're just talking about, they don't give a fuck about the people in East Palestine. Obviously, they can't. It's just not in their calculus
It's
of
just
the
not
profit.
in there.
Like that capitalism, what it does is it privatizes gain, but socializes cost. So it doesn't bake in what are called externalities. You know what I mean? So like if a company is like polluting, like that, there's a huge cost to the people in
Of
that
course.
community. They have to fucking clean
The
it up. They have
healthcare
to
system, the
the
whole
healthcare system.
everything.
All of those costs, which are billions of dollars, are borne by people, not the company, right?
Yeah.
So it externalizes all those costs and it doesn't factor in to the company's bottom line. But all the gains are not shared by those same people, right? They don't get to share in the profits. That's the fundamental problem with privatizing things that should be public. Is that if there is a kind of externality, often environmental, often health related, often whatever. Sometimes they just like kill someone or whatever. Those costs are not borne by the private entity. They're
And
borne by
again,
the
that used to
society.
be there was a time in this country where that, like, just to take it back to the workers having zero sick days, paid sick days, zero paid sick days. There was a time in this country where like a company would boast about the way they treated their people. Like, our
Yeah,
workers got the best of the best. Our workers, look at the healthcare we give them. Look at this. Look, man, we treat our people amazingly. Blah blah blah. Like, bro, like, do you think at the annual shareholders meeting or summit or retreat at any point do they talk about how great their workers have it? just as a concept, anybody who would try to bring that up as some kind of virtue would be completely laughed off the stage. The idea that they would be taking care of anybody but the fat cats. But yeah, this is a story that I think it's the biggest story in America right now. I don't give a fuck about Trump getting indicted in the Southern District of New York, or you know, Biden's proposing some fantasy budget that no Republican would ever go near, and all of that other dumb shit. Man, this is it. These folks are getting screwed in real time. And it'll be a miracle if they get any justice at all after this. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. You got anything else, Nando?
No, man. Just you ready for the Oscars? You got any predictions?
I have no predictions. I still haven't seen most of these movies. Like I said, I told you I got to see Tar, which I thought was incredible, which was dope.
Excellent.
But I haven't
favorite movie.
seen, and I haven't watched The Fablemans. I haven't watched none of this other shit.
You haven't watched Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No, people keep talking about that. Have you seen it? Do you think it's good?
I've seen it. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's good, but like, is it like
It's
adult
Tar.
people good?
It's not Tar.
Okay,
Tar
it's not Tar. Okay,
Tar's
okay,
amazing.
So it's not Tar. So which one? Who do you think is the favorite to win Best Picture? Who do you think actually deserves to win Best Picture?
The favorite is Everything Everywhere All at Once, pretty clearly, I think. And I think the deserved winner is Tar. I think Tar should win Best Picture,
Everything.
Best Director, Best Screenplay,
actor,
and Best Actor. Yeah, I think it should win every
Best
award.
Life, Tar.
Yeah, dude, that movie I thought was fucking incredible. That was such a perfect kind of examination of how power is wielded and shit. It's just fucking amazing.
And it has shit to say about the current moment, but it's not very preachy.
Without being annoying about it.
Yeah. They have something to say about it, but it's just like, all right, that's besides the point. And yes, the nature of power and greatness as we define it, and what it means for somebody to not just be great, but to be conscious of their greatness.
Yeah.
It's,
and to be great in a collaborative field, like filmmaking or orchestra conducting, or whatever. It's like
or NBA basketball, Ja Morant.
Or NBA basketball. It's like Yeah, I thought it was fucking great. I mean, it's I really hope Banshees of Inisherin has a good run. I hope
I gotta
Colin
finish
Farrell wins
watching
Best
that.
Actor.
I started watching it. I was into it, of course. Like, I have a weird, I don't want to say obsession, but interest in Irish people from Ireland.
Yeah.
Not
funny.
Not the annoying mix we got in New York. I'm good.
There's
no fascination with them.
Some fucking Sox fan and
no. Those people, I have no interest in them. But Irish people in Ireland, I'm interested in. And
Me
so
too.
I definitely got to finish watching.
They're hilarious and they're Catholic, dude.
Yes,
that's why.
And they have this like, we've been put upon chip on their shoulder that obviously I can relate to as a black man. So I definitely got to finish watching that. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Make sure you are locked into our Patreon. Please make sure, if you haven't already, please donate to Jade Hoy and his family's GoFundMe. Obviously, as you guys know by now, Jade was in a terrible accident in November. He's on his road to recovery, but it's a very long road ahead. And as you know, this is America, the healthcare system being what it is. His family needs some help financially in that regard. And I would say this, knowing Jade for 10 years now, this is somebody who I'm not just saying this guy would give the shirt off his back to a stranger. I've seen him do it. And so if anybody deserves generosity, it's Jade Hoy, 1000%. And so if you can, please give to the GoFundMe. That'll be linked to this episode, the description and all that kind of stuff. Again, we will see you guys next week. Peace out, y'all.